On day 1, I spawned in as the Hulk. Oh yeah, look at me, I'm incredibly tiny. I was small, but I could still punch pretty hard and jump pretty high. Before I could spend too much time admiring my abilities though, I was attacked by a bunch of baboons. Get away from me, you mad monkeys! I thought about running away, but wait, I was the Hulk. I started swinging my fists. In no time, I had pounded the baboons into the ground. Bet you thought this little green guy was an easy dinner. I decided to go looking for my friends. As I was exploring, I came across a village. While walking the streets, I noticed that it was empty and several of the buildings had been damaged. Wow, I wonder what happened here. I kept exploring but couldn't find any survivors, so I found myself a good house and went to sleep for the night. On day 2, I left the village and entered a nearby forest. Time to start punching trees. I punched down trees until my fists were starting to hurt, then set up a crafting table to make myself some wooden tools. I made all the tools I was going to need, then headed over to a nearby cave. Wood can only get me so far. Better get some stone. In the cave, I managed to find some coal, along with plenty of stone. As I was mining though, I suddenly heard a noise behind me. Ah! The little boy ran off into the cave. He had totally caught me off guard. Hang on a second, come back here. I ran off in the direction he had gone and soon caught up with him. That's when I saw a skeleton was trying to attack him. Hang tight. With my Hulk strength, I managed to take him out. Then I turned to the little boy.
Please don't eat me.
Eat you? Why would I eat you?
So, you're not gonna eat me?
No, of course not. I don't want to hurt anyone. What are you doing down here in this cave?
A big monster came to our village and destroyed it. My mom told me to hide in this cave. The monster reminded me of you, but I guess you're not as big as he was.
Like me? Huh, that's confusing.
But do you think it's safe to go back to the village?
I didn't want to break it to this kid that the village had been completely wiped out, so I didn't. It's still pretty scary out there, so our best bet is just to stay here in the cave. We can go look for your family tomorrow. On day 3, the boy, whose name was Nash, and I headed back to the village. This was going to be awkward. Nash showed me to his house, but it was completely destroyed. He was feeling really sad when suddenly we heard a cry from the inside. Someone is in here! I ran over to a pile of rubble, and underneath I could see a pair of eyes.
It's Mila! That's my big sister!
I quickly cleared out all of the blocks, letting the little girl out of the rubble. Are you okay? What happened here?
I think I'm okay. It was a green monster that attacked us. He was big and scary. Kind of like you, but he didn't have friendly eyes. He ran around our town, destroying everyone and everything in front of him. Our house collapsed, so I don't know if my parents escaped or not.
I'm sorry to hear it. How long has it been?
I don't know. Days have gone by since I've been under here.
Just then, we heard a howl and a group of feral wolves appeared. They must have been scavenging in the abandoned village. Hang on, kids, I'll take care of this. I sprang into action, hitting the wolves. They were vicious as they snapped with their fangs, but I wasn't going to let them hurt these poor kids. Soon enough, I had taken several of them out. It wasn't enough though, as I could hear some more wolves off in the distance. Come on, guys, I don't think I can fight all of them off. Let's get out of here. We ran from the village until we were a safe distance away. It was time to start building us a shelter. First off, I put together a full set of stone tools so I'd have the equipment needed to get any job done. Then I got to work building a simple house for us to stay in. It wasn't anything fancy, as we needed something quick, but at least for now, it was a place to call home. Once the house was finished, I then made several torches and put them outside to stop mobs from spawning. We had survived another day, but who knew what surprises were coming next? On days 4 to 5, I left the kids at the house and went to go look for some food. We weren't going to last out here if we didn't have something to eat. Oh look, pigs! I had spotted some pigs, so I rushed over and attacked them. I quickly knocked them all out and collected all of their meat. Just then, Black Panther came out of the trees. T'Challa, what are you doing out here?
There is a beast that has been destroying the villages in the area. They call him Abomination. I have tried to face him myself, but he was too powerful.
Oh man, if you can't beat him, how can I? I'm so small.
You know, there is a cave near here that contains something I think might help you.
He explained where I needed to go, and so I set off to find what he was talking about. After a bit, I soon found the cave he was describing. As I entered in, I saw what he was talking about. It was gamma radiation. This is what made the Hulk in the first place. I stepped up to it and immediately started to absorb the radiation. I could feel it entering my bloodstream when suddenly I grew bigger and stronger than before. Awesome! I feel like I could beat anything right now. Speaking of which, there was a roar as a Zoglin had just shown up. He must have been absorbing the radiation too. Let's try these new powers out. But much to my disappointment, he was really strong. I was losing the fight. I was taking too much damage and had no choice but to hurry and run away. On days 6 to 8, I had arrived back at the house. That's when I realized I had eaten all the meat I was supposed to bring home. Oh man, the kids are probably hungry. I turned around and headed back out. Luckily, it didn't take too long, and I quickly found some chickens. This will make a great meal for the kids. I then headed into a nearby mine to try and find some better materials. As I went deeper into the mine, I soon came across some iron. Yes, now I can finally stop using these stone tools. With my pockets full of iron, I headed back to the house for good this time. As I entered the house, the kids were really impressed with how much bigger I had gotten. Unfortunately, they were less impressed with eating raw meat. That's a good point. Let me fix that. I got right to work adding on a kitchen to the house. I'm not sure why I thought feeding them raw meat would be a good idea. I guess I'm just used to being able to eat whatever I want. With the kitchen complete, I got the chicken all cooked up. Now the kids would be able to have a decent meal. With the food all sorted out, I then started smelting down the iron ore. Using my new iron bars, I made myself a brand spanking new set of iron tools, which would be way better than my stone ones. Then I got to it, making some iron armor. I wasn't able to make a full set. I wasn't sure it would be strong enough to take on Abomination, but it would be better than nothing. That's when I realized that none of us had a place to sleep. I then made the kids their own bedrooms, complete with beds in their favorite colors. On days 9 to 10, I woke up to a knock on the door. It was Black Panther.
How are you feeling about your powers now? Abomination is nearby. Perhaps together we can defeat it.
Yeah, together I'm sure we'll have a chance. I followed Black Panther out and across the land. We soon arrived at a seaside village. I could see Abomination rampaging through the town, destroying people and buildings alike. Oh man, he's bigger than I thought he would be. This isn't going to be an easy fight. We couldn't let him to continue to hurt these innocent people though, so I charged down into the village, straight at Abomination. Leave these people alone. Abomination turned and hit me hard. Ouch! I don't care how much you hurt me. I'll never stop fighting you.
Get out of here, you lab experiment. I don't have time for pests like you.
I kept fighting, but it was clear I didn't have a chance. Just as Abomination was ready to finish me off, Black Panther hopped into the fight. He was able to get a few hits in, but it wasn't enough to stop Abomination. He was just too strong. The two of us ran off as Abomination continued his rampage through the village. We had both nearly been defeated, and T'Challa was nearly on the verge of death. Luckily, we made it out of there alive. On days 11 to 12, we arrived back at my base. T'Challa, let me make a room for you to heal up. I quickly got to work making him a fresh new room so he could relax and get his health back up. I soon finished the build, and T'Challa was able to move in. The kids had run in to see him and were very excited. Apparently they thought he was their new kitty. T'Challa was not amused. Hang out here, guys. I'll see about getting us some food. I started to leave the house, eating our last bit of meat. In the distance, I could hear some spiders. I better take those out before they get too close to the base. I soon came upon the spiders and managed to fight them off without too much trouble. As I picked up the string they dropped, it gave me an idea. If I had some leads, I could get some pigs and raise them at the house. Luckily, I soon came across some slime. I fought the slime, destroying all of its parts. I picked up the slime balls they dropped and then used the ingredients to craft some leads. Time to go pig wrestling. I went searching through the woods and eventually found the pigs I was looking for. Using the newly created leads, I led them back to the base. I then led them into a pen that I had built earlier. Finally, now there will be enough meat for everyone. I wanted to be sure we had some variety though, so I broke some grass to get seeds. I'd also gathered some water in a bucket, so I was all ready to build a farm. I tilled the ground and placed the water, which then let me plant the seeds I had collected. This base is really starting to come along. The only thing I was missing at this point was a statue to really put my mark on the place. Since I was so busy with food, I thought I would make it my favorite food. You'll have to let me know if you can guess what it is. Once I had finished the first part, it had gotten pretty late, and I could see some creepers had started spawning near the base. I better take care of that before they blow everyone to bits. I headed down to the base and knocked out all the creepers. Fighting them was always scary business, but I managed to knock them all out without too much trouble. On days 13 to 15, I decided that I needed to focus on getting more powerful, but I wasn't sure where to start. Just then, there was a knock on the door. Tony, what are you doing here?
I was flying over and saw the statue you were building. Who else would build that other than you? Figured I'd stop in and say hello.
Boy, Tony, you really dropped in at the right time. This abomination has been rampaging through the towns here, and I'm not strong enough to stop him.
Oh, well, I know what you mean. I've had a few scrapes of my own I wasn't sure I was going to get out of. What have you got so far?
Well, I came across some gamma radiation that powered me up, but that's about it.
Well, what are you wasting your time with me for? That's your answer right there. Surely there's more radiation points out there.
You think so? But how could we find them?
Bring me some dirt from the cave. With that, I can build you a detector that will lead you to new deposits. Piece of cake.
I agreed to the plan, but there was just one problem. That Zoglin would still be there. I decided to head back to the caves in order to get some more iron. With the new iron I collected, I brought it back up and smelted it down. Using the iron ingots, I completed the rest of my armor. Alright, let's give this thing a go. I soon reached the cave from before. I think my best bet is going to be trying to sneak. I tiptoed into the cave and saw the perfect block for a dirt sample. I quickly mined it up without any movement by the Zoglin. Looks like I might just make it out of here alive. Just then, I noticed there were some diamonds nearby. It was too good to pass up. I headed over to the diamond and mined it out, but unfortunately, it woke up the Zoglin. Oh boy, here we go. The Zoglin let out a roar and attacked. I was the same level of strength as last time, but I didn't have this much armor back then. The Zoglin was still incredibly powerful, and it was a tough fight. And thanks to my new gear, I was able to take him out and win. On days 16 to 19, I managed to make it back to the base with a sample. simple. Tony needed a lab to work out of and had gotten to work putting it all together. There was some pretty cool stuff going on in there, and after a while, it was all done. Wow, this lab is looking awesome. With the lab complete, Tony could start working on that radiation detector. I could tell he was going to be here for a while though, so I got to work building him a house of his own. It probably wasn't the mansion he was used to, but he would just have to get used to it. As I was finishing the house, Tony came running over to me. He had finished the radiation detector. Oh, Tony, this is gonna help so much. Thank you. It was time to get out there and become even more powerful. On days 20 to 22, I had the detector in my hand and started running off through the woods. As I ran, I almost ran straight into a woodland mansion. The gamma must be underneath this mansion. I'll have to keep my guard up though. This place is dangerous. I walked into the mansion and took a look around. As I walked down the hallways, I was immediately attacked by illagers. Don't mind me, it's just a casual breaking and entering. The illagers started firing off their arrows, and I ran around giving them the old one too. It was tough, but luckily my iron armor was doing enough to protect me. I kept pushing my way through, fighting the illagers off as I went. Eventually, I saw a chest room and started taking a look inside. Oh wow, these materials will be perfect for my statue. What luck! I checked more chests and found even more materials in the chests. As I passed around the room, I saw something floating on a pedestal. Power gloves. I'll bet I can punch super hard now. I kept following the tracker and came across some more illagers. Using my new power glove, I was able to knock them out much faster than before. Boy, am I glad I found this thing. As I continued down the hallway, I soon saw a very strange looking set of stairs. This must be the place. As I reached the bottom, I saw a massive warped mosquito. Hi, wanna move? Suddenly, the mosquito took flight and charged. This dude had clearly been hitting the gym, and his punches were powerful. I had to do a lot of running and hiding to try and stay in the fight. Oh, mosquitoes were already bad enough. Why is this one so much worse? In addition to his punches, he also shot a gross looking liquid at me. I had to end this, and fast. Using the plants as cover, I managed to jump out and get hits in. It took a lot of effort, but eventually, I was able to take him out. Now that is how you squish a bug. With the mosquito gone, I headed into the doorway and could see the gamma inside. I stood in place as I absorbed its energy. Suddenly, I got a little bigger and gained more hearts. Yes, this will never get old. As I was getting ready to leave the mansion, I caught the scent of a nearby farm, but it was inside. I went down the hallway and saw a room full of carrots. Well, the illagers aren't going to be needing this anymore. I gathered up as many carrots as I could. Now we'd have a more reliable food source. Time to get back to the base. On days 23 to 26, I got right to work planting all the crops I had gotten from the illagers. As I was finishing, I heard Black Panther calling to me.
Well, we don't have more radiation for you. Perhaps we can train you to get you stronger.
Well, I'm sure every little bit will help. I'm in. I headed out behind the house and got to work building a new training course according to T'Challa's instructions. It was looking like it would be a fun course, but certainly challenging. Once the course was complete, T'Challa ran through it to show me how it's done. He made it look really easy. All right, I'll give it a go. I did my best to run through, but definitely made some mistakes. This was going to take some practice to get better. After giving it a few tries, T'Challa suggested that we try fighting. I hope you've got your armor on tight. I'm gonna smash you.
Good luck.
We faced off and started to fight. I was really strong, but I think that was my mistake. The Black Panther was an experienced fighter and was able to get more hits in. In the end, he was able to defeat me. Aw man, looks like I've got a lot of work to do.
Do not worry. Even the smallest seeds can become a mighty tree. You will get there.
On days 27 to 31, I was feeling especially motivated to get stronger. I decided to start looking for some more radiation stations. Okay, let's see where this thing leads me this time. I followed the radiation detector across the land and eventually reached a snowy tundra. It looks like it's pointing me to this cave over here. I didn't see any green glowing, but maybe it was just deep within. I headed deeper into the cave. Suddenly, I was attacked by a bunch of diamond zombies. Leave me alone! I was able to beat them back, but they were much tougher than I thought. I needed that radiation boost more than I realized. I kept going and ran into a whole group of diamond skeletons too. Luckily, some of them shot each other, so they ended up fighting amongst themselves while I took them out. Guess that's what happens when you don't have a brain. The good news was that I was able to spot some diamonds, which I happily mined out. Well, this doesn't make me stronger physically, but it will definitely give me a leg up in a fight. With all the diamonds mined, I headed back up out of the cave. Before I could get too far though, I heard a noise behind me. It was a Yeti. Uh-oh, these guys are strong. The Yeti and I started to fight. I was right, his blows were landing some hard hits. I wasn't sure I could take him, but I had to be strong. I couldn't leave those kids behind. I rose up and started landing blows. I could tell I was going to win. I only needed to land one more hit when suddenly the Yeti let out an ice attack, freezing me in place. He was hurt and ran away to go heal. This is not good. On days 32 to 35, I was still frozen. Luckily, the ice was starting to melt and I was able to break free. Well, it's a good thing that Yeti left. Now, where was I? I followed my radiation detector, which soon led me to another cave. But look who it was. That Yeti. I know I can beat him, but he's probably just going to freeze me again. But I need that power. I moved closer to him, but before I could start to fight, he spoke.
Wait, don't hurt me. I thought you were the abomination. I can see that you're different though.
I try to be. What do you know about him?
Not much, other than he destroyed my village. Everyone I know was lost in the battle, and I'm the only one of my kind left.
What a monster. Why do you think he attacked your village?
Well, my village was near a gamma radiation source like the one in this cave. My best guess is that he was trying to get to it.
Oh no, it must power him up too. I've got to get to the radiation before he does. He has to be stopped.
I've been watching this cave to try and stop him in case he shows up, but I trust you to stop him. I'll let you in, but be warned, there's a monster even more powerful inside.
I'll take my chances. I headed into the cave. Soon, I saw what the Yeti had been talking about. Inside, there was a ghost mage. Uh-oh, here we go. The ghost mage charged at me. He wasn't going to make this easy. He looked like he had been waiting here a little too long. I'd be upset too if I didn't have any legs. But hey, at least he could levitate. Get out of my way! I swung as hard as I could, and at long last, the ghost mage was defeated. Now I could finally access the radiation. I stepped up to it and could feel the power enter into me. Soon, I was even stronger than before. Oh yeah, that's the good stuff. As I left the cave, I invited the Yeti to come and stay with us. Since his village was destroyed and he no longer had a reason to guard the cave, he happily agreed. On days 36 to 39, I got right to work building the Yeti his own room. Turned out he used to live in a world full of monsters where he would help in their mailroom. He said he got banished to our world. It was all politics. Poor guy. With the Yeti's room complete, I decided to give the base some more upgrades to make it a little safer. We needed to beef up our defenses, just in case Abomination ever found us. Once the defenses were all completed, I was starting to get hungry. That's when I headed over to continue work on my statue. By this point, you've probably got a good idea of what my favorite food is. Leave your guesses in the comments. After a bit, I had finished the second part. That's when Black Panther came running up to me. He said he was impressed by how much bigger I had gotten. He said there was still a lot more work I had to do though, and invited me to do the obstacle course again. I would, but I'm just not very good at it. It's hard to do an obstacle course when there are so many other things I'm trying to get done.
I understand, but it will help you. If you can complete the course, I have an item I believe will help.
Oh, I like the sound of that. I'll have to keep training then. I ran over to the obstacle course and got to work. It was still hard, but I felt like I was doing even better than before. Black Panther encouraged me, even when I fell off and had to try again. I wasn't able to beat it today, but soon enough, I would have to win that prize. On days 40 to 43, I tried to use my radiation detector to find more gamma, but it wasn't working. Oh man, what's up with this thing? I headed over to Tony and asked him what was going on with it. He explained that I must have found all the gamma radiation within range of the detector. So how can we expand the range? Tony told me to wait there and headed into his plane. When he returned, he tossed out some eyes of ender and told me I needed to get some ender pearls. Oh boy, this isn't gonna be easy. I thanked him for his help and started searching for the end portal. My journey led me across the land. At one point, I even came across some diamonds, which I was able to use to finish up an entire set of diamond armor. I'm going to need this in the end for sure. It took a lot of searching, but eventually I made it into the stronghold and soon found myself outside the end portal. I inserted the eyes of ender. Well, here goes nothing. I jumped in. On days 44 to 49, I appeared in the end. Let's get those ender pearls. There were several endermen nearby, and I got right to work chopping them down. These guys were really scary when you looked them in the eyes, but you just had to be brave. I ended up getting into more than I asked for though, and was soon surrounded by them. How was I going to get out of this one? Suddenly, there was a sound above me, and the Scarlet Witch came flying in to help. Together, we were able to take out the rest of the endermen. Oh, you showed up just in time. I thought I was a goner.
Always happy to help a friend.
Do you know what's going on with the endermen though? I noticed that not a single one of them dropped any ender pearls.
I have noticed this as well, yes. There is something going on, but I don't know what it is yet.
Well, let's stick together and maybe we can figure this out. She agreed and we continued on through the end. Nearby, there was an end city, so we went to check it out. As we got closer, we saw something terrifying. Look at that enderman. He's bigger than all of the others. We charged in and started to fight. This enderman was unlike anything I had ever seen before. He had 4 arms and would clap them together, trying to smash me in them. He would also pick up and throw blocks at me, as well as teleport around. This battle was really tough. With the Scarlet Witch's help though, we finally managed to take him out. He let out a shriek and exploded in a display of enderman goop. It was pretty intense. And look, an ender pearl. The giant enderman had left a single pearl behind. The Scarlet Witch told me I should take it, as she had more research she wanted to do in the end. She opened up a portal for me to return to the overworld, so I stepped in to head home. On days 50 to 53, I arrived back at my base. Safely back home, I went over to Tony to give him the ender pearl I had collected. He thanked me and got right to work improving the gamma radiation detector. Suddenly, there was a sound outside. What was that? As I got closer to the sound of the noise, I saw that some endermen were there. Scarlet Witch must have left the portal open too long. I hurried to defend the base from the endermen, knocking them out one at a time. Once they were defeated, Scarlet Witch came through the portal.
Oh, I am sorry about that. I have been in the end for so long, I forgot to close my portal.
That's okay. Good luck with your research. She thanked me and headed back into the end. On days 54 to 57, I decided to go find Black Panther to do some training. What I found instead, though, was a note. Meet me in the woods north north. Huh, I wonder what he's up to this time. I went north and soon found Black Panther, as well as a giant circle of stones. What's this all about?
Pay attention. This circle will summon a mystical monster. Defeat it, and you will receive a special item.
I stepped into the ring, and soon a magma monster appeared. He didn't seem like he was too tough, and that's because he wasn't. I jumped around and managed to take him out pretty easily. Is that all you wanted me to do? That was easy.
Turn around.
I turned around and saw a much bigger magma monster. Uh-oh. This guy was way stronger than the other one, and I was taking a beating. Why didn't T'Challa just have me fight this guy the first time? I felt like my training was paying off though, and soon I was winning. I got into position and managed to land the final blow, taking him out completely. Got him. Alright, now where's that special reward? Or is there another monster behind me? Black Panther chuckled and suddenly a ring of fire appeared in the arena. I stepped into it and picked up an enchanted pair of diamond boots. Wow, these have feather falling 4 on them. Now I can survive huge falls. I thanked T'Challa for his help, then left to go back to the base. On days 58 to 62, I was arriving back at the base when I saw someone standing on top of it. Who is that? As I got closer, I could see it was the Red Hulk. Hey, what do you think you're doing here?
The abomination knows what you're doing. There's only enough room for one big green guy in this world, and that's not you.
We'll see about that. We charged into the base, but were suddenly attacked by a group of red crabs. What the? Where did all of these guys come from? The crabs weren't very strong, but there were a lot of them. We were so distracted by the crabs, we didn't notice Red Hulk had snuck around the walls and into Tony's lab. We soon defeated all of the crabs, but there was one question on our minds. Where did Red Hulk go? We ran around the base and soon saw the house he had run into. He had managed to break into the lab. Tony quickly ran around to check if anything was stolen.
Bad news, big guy. The gamma radiation detector is gone.
Oh no, now Abomination will be able to find all the sources before me. There's no way I'll be able to beat him without it. Suddenly, I realized something else was missing too. The kids! We ran around the base and eventually saw them hiding under a desk. They were scared, but unharmed. It's okay, guys. It's safe now. Don't worry. I promise I will always protect you no matter what.
Now that everyone is safe, follow me. I can use my tracking abilities to find where the Red Hulk ran to.
Let's go! On days 63 to 66, Black Panther and I were tracking Red Hulk's path. Soon, I could see a large tower in the distance. That must be it. Hang back and I'll go take care of this. I made my way over to the tower and entered in. I was immediately attacked by a bunch of red crabs. Get your pincy pincers away from me! I managed to clear out all of the crabs on the ground floor and started running up the stairs. What a weird place to call home. As I reached the top, I saw Red Hulk was waiting for me.
I guess I should have gotten rid of that little cat man. But no matter, you'll never defeat me.
Bring it on! Red Hulk and I charged at each other, exchanging blows. It was a different fight entirely to be punching someone who was just as strong as me. You should be helping us. You are a Hulk after all.
Big deal. I'm here for the strongest, and that's never going to be you.
His hits were getting harder, and I was almost out of health. Suddenly, there was a flash of light, and Scarlet Witch appeared.
Someone needs to be taught a lesson.
Scarlet Witch started firing energy at Red Hulk, which had totally caught him off guard. We were winning! We may have been too confident though, because even though Scarlet Witch could fly, she got a little too close.
Gotcha!
Red Hulk landed a hit, knocking her out of the sky, down toward the ground. No, you'll pay for that! My blood began to boil, and I suddenly grew in size, becoming even stronger than before. I charged at the Red Hulk, smacking him again and again. He tried to fight back, but it was no use. Soon, he was defeated. I can't believe Scarlet Witch had to die. I'll never forget her. On the ground was the gamma radiation detector, which I happily picked up. I ran back down and out of the tower. Waiting on the other side was Black Panther and Scarlet Witch. What? I thought you were gone.
What do you mean? I thought you knew I could fly. You knocked me down, but I caught myself. It seemed like you had it from there.
Right, that makes sense. Well, I got stronger. Let's go. On day 67 to 70, we returned back to my base and got right to work building a place for the Scarlet Witch to stay. I was so happy to find out she survived the fight. That was way too close for comfort. I soon finished her place. Then I went on to build something for the kids. I couldn't believe Red Hulk was able to get into our base so easily. No wonder the kids were scared. If it had been the Abomination, things could have gone much worse. Soon, I finished building them their very own playroom. My armor had taken a beating in the fights, so I went over to Tony to give him supplies to fix it up. He was happy to help, so I set off to work on the statue. I then headed outside to finish up the next part of the statue. I'm sure you've guessed what it is by now, a hamburger. It's definitely one of my favorite foods. What's yours? Soon, the next part of my burger was complete. On day 71 to 74, I was having a horrible dream. I'd finally found Abomination, but something was wrong. He kept getting bigger and bigger, while I kept getting smaller and smaller. I wasn't going to be able to beat him. I woke up in a cold sweat. Oh, what's going on, kids?
Sorry to wake you up, but we wanted to tell you thank you. Yeah, even though the base was attacked, we've never felt safer. We know you'll always do what you can to protect us.
I assured them that that would always be true. I believed myself when I said it, but I couldn't help but feel nervous about the fight ahead. On day 75 to 78, I felt more motivated than ever to get stronger in order to protect my friends. All right, let's see where a boosted detector takes me this time. I followed the arrow and soon soon found myself back in the forest where I had been training with Black Panther. It led me to the summoning circle, which suddenly transported me to the Nether. Whoa, whoa! As I arrived, I saw tons of Magma monsters who attacked. Jeez, all my friends really need to work on their portal management skills. These guys could have come through. I kept fighting and was able to get through the Magma monsters. That's when I noticed there was some ancient debris nearby. Oh, excellent! I'll be able to upgrade my armor and tools to netherite with this. On days 79 to 84, I was still following my detector through the Nether. I could tell I was close. But before I could go much farther, Abomination came out of nowhere.
Well, thanks for being my guide. Looks like this is my stop.
Your guide? What?
Huh, all that muscle and so dumb. Didn't even realize I was following you this whole time. With this radiation, I'll finally be at my full form.
No! I charged at him, but even without his final form, he knocked me out of the way, no problem. I was in big trouble. He took off and went into the volcano. All I could do was watch as the volcano started to erupt. What did he do? Suddenly, a giant abomination came leaping from the volcano and landing right in front of me.
Now I am truly powered up. Your little adventure ends here.
I knew I didn't stand a chance in this fight, so all I could do is run. I turned as Abomination started chasing me through the Nether. I had no idea if I was going to get away.
Come back here, weakling. I'm going to crush you.
I ran and ran, but suddenly I came to a giant cliff.
Time to say goodbye.
Goodbye. I jumped. On days 85 to 89, I was still falling. After what felt like forever, I landed in a pool of water, in a jungle. How in the world did I get here? Suddenly, a crocodile came out of nowhere and attacked. It was just a few punches, and I took him out in no time. It felt good to be able to be on the winning end of a fight again. All right, where am I? I've got to get back to the base. I took a look at the surrounding area and realized I wasn't far from my base, but thankfully Abomination didn't follow me. I should be home in no time. As I arrived back at my base, I went to talk to Tony to tell him everything that had happened. So yeah, now I don't know how I'll be able to beat him.
Well, there might be one more gamma spot you could use. I didn't mention it before because it's pretty hard to get to.
Where do I need to go? I'll do whatever it takes.
It's deep inside of the earth. Give me some time to improve the detector, and I'll be able to lead you right to it.
There wasn't a whole lot for me to do but wait, so I decided to use the time to finish the hamburger statue. I know it was kind of a strange thing to build, but there was something about a giant hamburger that just gave me a sense of normalcy in this crazy world. Soon, the statue was complete. On days 90 to 94, I went to visit Black Panther. All right, T'Challa, today's the day. I'm going to beat your obstacle course.
You are already strong enough, my friend. You don't need to prove anything on the obstacle course.
I have to prove it to myself. Besides, I want to win that item you mentioned.
Ah yes, the item. Go on then.
I ran to the course and got right to it. I could get all the strength and muscle in the world, but if I couldn't triumph a test of will, what good was it? The obstacle course was still as hard as ever, but my friends believed in me, and I had to win. Before I knew it, I had beaten the course. Yes, I did it!
Well done, well done. Here is your prize, as promised.
Black Panther tossed out a hammer. Is that Mjolnir? Thor's hammer? I picked it up. Wait, I picked it up!
It's just a replica. I may have made it sound cooler than it was going to be. Sorry about that.
That's okay. I actually really like it. It reminds me of my friend. If only he could be here too. That's when I had an idea. I headed over to the hamburger statue and started to make some adjustments. I decided to add a helmet and some arms. It wasn't my friend, but I was happy to have a reminder of him. I was admiring my statue when suddenly Thor appeared. Thor, what are you doing here? Well, I'm not really there. I'm just kind of there. But the real question is, why did you make me a hamburger? It's a long, hungry story. Don't worry about it. Sure. Say, we do sound a lot alike, don't we? Well, that's because I spent 100 days as you before. Oh yeah, that was awesome. Everyone should go watch that video next. Yeah, absolutely. All right, well, good luck on your upcoming fight. I know you'll smash it. Nice, you're always so funny. Talk to you soon. Thor disappeared. Time to go check on that new detector. On days 95 to 97, I went to Tony's to see if he had finished the detector. As I entered, it looked like something was wrong. Tony, what's going on? Tony was floating in a water tank on life support. I took a look around and saw a note lying on the table. What was going on? Only thing that could give the detector enough juice was my arc reactor. I will hang out here till then. He's risking his life for me to find this. I can't let him down. Before I could leave though, I had to go say goodbye to the kids. They thanked me for giving them a safe place to live and wished me luck in my battle against the Abomination. As a final gesture, they gave me a piece of jewelry to remember them by. Now there's just one thing left to do. Using all of the ancient debris I had collected in the Nether, I managed to make some netherite scraps. Then I used that to make some netherite ingots. Finally, I was able to upgrade all of my equipment to netherite. On day 98, I had reached the Badlands. The detector had been steady so far, so I knew I had to be getting close. Okay, it looks like this is the spot. Man, how deep do I need to go? Just then, there was a giant scary bug, and he looked hungry. Buzz off, bug boy. The bug was a vicious little, well, big spider. I had never met something so determined to end me. The only way a bug could be this big has to be because of the radiation. I kept swinging my fist and was eventually able to knock him out. All right, let's level up for the last time. I stepped up to the radiation and nothing happened. What's going on? I'm not absorbing the radiation. That's when I realized I never was absorbing radiation to get bigger. Every time I had gotten bigger, it was because I was angry about a friend being in danger. I took a look at the locket the kids had given me. Inside of the locket was a picture of the kids with their now missing parents. The abomination has taken so much away from everyone I care about. I have to be stronger. I was so angry about it that I started to feel the power flowing into me, and I was about to grow bigger than ever before. On day 99, I came bursting from the ground in my final giant form. And look how many hearts I have. Time to find the abomination. That's when I noticed that the detector could find other gamma radiation users. Man, Tony thought of everything. I flicked the switch and saw it was pointing at me. Wait, that's not right. I flicked it again and it pointed another direction. Oh no, it's pointing to my base. I took off running. My friends were going to be in trouble. Back at the base, there was an explosion outside the walls. The kids hurried and ran under the desk for cover.
Here he comes, Wanda. Get ready.
Abomination came breaking through the wall as Scarlet Witch and Black Panther tried to hold him off. They were doing their best, but he was too strong. As I got closer to the base, I could see the fight was intense. I hurried and jumped in.
Nice of you to join us.
Couldn't let you guys have all the fun.
How about you two shut it and let me pound you into the ground?
We'll see about that. We continued to fight as the abomination exploded more and more of the base. We had to win, but he was too strong. He kept knocking us back. Suddenly, there was an explosion, and the side of the children's room exploded.
Help!
Oh, now you've got me really angry, and you won't like me when I'm angry. A surge of energy came into me, and I grew even bigger than I thought was possible. Hulk smash! I started swinging, punching the heck out of the abomination.
What? How? Where did this come from?
The abomination was really backing down now. I punched and punched. Then at long last, he was defeated. Goodbye for good. We took a moment to celebrate our victory. But wait, what about the children? We rushed over to the house and found the kids under the desk. Oh, thank goodness you're okay. They laughed and cried out of happiness. They gave me a hug and I started to calm down. As I calmed down, I shrunk back to a more normal size. The danger was gone. On day 100, we took time to rebuild the base. The danger was gone, but who knows when it would strike again. But when it did, we would be waiting and we would be ready.